And yeah, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, this is
The new film.
relatively new, 1967, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so how old were you when this was, well, approximately? Teenager?
My math is really bad, but I'd say 4.
Yeah, I thought about 2 or 4. Yeah. And
My math was even worse back then.
but seriously, did you see it when it first came out?
No. My parents wouldn't let me go at 4 years old. So,
I don't know what they were thinking.
Blazing Saddles I saw though. I don't know when the first time I saw it. Became a Clint Eastwood fan early on in my life, and that's one of those films that one of the early mentors on screen that I kind of wanted to emulate. The tough, cool, quiet guy.
I was going to ask you that, if you identified with being the man with no name.
Yeah, I did, and I actually identify with each person in the movie. The ugly one, yes, the good and the bad. Without getting too deep, but yeah, metaphorically, we all have that in us. We all have the potential to be each one of those. I mean, what I liked about the movie for me was each one had their own survival technique, and how they navigated the desert, the war, struggling through life. They all had their own way of doing their thing. Clint's was the coolest.
Definitely, and I think he felt he needed to make this movie because he wanted to break into movies, and I can see some similarities with you identifying him with that character, your love of outdoors and guns and loud vehicles, and though there weren't too many in there, but it's such an expansive film, and I wanted to ask you, I just found out, and I didn't realize it, but you showed this film before most every concert. Is that a clip from the film?
There is.
Not the whole 3-hour film, then it would be like a 6-hour concert.
Yes. We'd rather play than show the movie. There's a scene, The Ecstasy of Gold. Maybe you've all seen it, maybe you haven't, but towards the end, something happens, and there's a cannon and Clint, and yeah, we kind of set that up in our. We've used the intro music from this movie since 1984, possibly 1983. We had this really terrible intro tape that was just this heart beating, and it got faster and faster and faster, and then we came out, and our first manager said, "That sucks. We got something way better than that." So he played us The Ecstasy of Gold, and that was one of the coolest things that our manager ever did. Our first manager. That was pretty much the only thing that we kept from him.
He's not there anymore. But the music, I think it was Ennio Morricone.
That's right, Ennio Morricone.
And that music is like so seminal to the film. I mean, I don't think you can separate the success of the film from that music. I mean, the music that you started out with, and that music, is it just that something like primordial in it, or is it something, a kind of music that you took to, or?
Well, that was my kind of soundtrack music. All the other stuff was hokey. This is extra hokey, but it's got a character to it. It's got a rawness. When you sit when I listen to it, like all of a sudden this guitar comes in, it's like, ooh, that's really too loud, and it's out of tune. But I like it. It's kind of like what we do sometimes. I loved what initially got me was the moods that it put me in. It created scenes. It helped the scenes, and layering of instruments. And it wasn't just orchestra. It was orchestra that had, the rawness to it. There's guitars, there's trumpets that are just blasting. And I took a lot from that into Metallica, trying to do layering, trying to build, trying to, make epic things happen. And that's what Ennio Morricone certainly did in this movie.
Right. It's a beautiful movie, and the landscapes are incredible. I understand you're artist in terms of drawing and have an interest in that and graphics?
Yeah, I mean, graphics, not so much filming and all of things like that, but yeah, designing logos for bands and stuff.
Yeah, but the visual aspect of that film is like, and you talk about some of these scenes, I won't, how many people have seen this film, by the way? Well, most of you, so I guess we can't really spoil it, but no spoilers here. But
what I really love about it is when, you know, you're up on faces, obviously. When that was the first thing, I mean, that's the first scene. There's a face, and it's this close.
Sweat.
And it's sweaty, and it's ugly, and it's dirty, and it's unshaven, and it's raw. And pretty much everyone in that movie gets that shot. I mean, in a way, there's no hiding with that kind of shot. And I always thought, as a kid, I wanted to have a face that had character like that, you know. And one day maybe.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about Eli Wallach, Van Fleet, and Clint Eastwood. I mean, if there ever were three faces that you could do those close-ups with, and those guys were such great actors. It's like Roger Ebert said when he first reviewed it. He didn't give it a 4-star review. He gave it a 3 because he was affected that, well, you know, how could this be so good? It was a spaghetti western, but it really was that good. You know?
Well, this movie has stood the test of time, in my opinion. There's many kind of you know, Quentin Tarantino, for example, has tried to replicate this kind of spaghetti western feel over and over and over, and this is the real deal. This is the one they kind of fashioned it after.
Ebert also said when it first came to the United States, people loved it, but they didn't know why. It was just like this visceral.
Why ask why? I mean, well, just like it. Don't try and figure it out.
Right.
Don't try and analyze it. You know, dissect it. Just enjoy it. And yeah, it's a long movie. It takes you through all kinds of stuff. But there's something that's, you know, it's not so much the wonderful dialogue. I mean, what they don't say is the cool
Exactly.
part. You know, what's not said. And sometimes I don't get how did this happen in the movie? And it's one of those things where you got to be cool enough to know it, or just wasn't told very well. But I always thought that, wow, I never got it. So, but they're so cool. They understood each other, and they didn't even say anything.
Yeah, it's not big on plot or a lot of dialogue. But I want to ask you something. This may be, I don't know. You know, when we talked, we talked about this before. When I read your lyrics, you know, I read that and I say, you're a poet. And that film, in a sense, is like poetry. Do you think that was kind of an attraction as well, besides, you know, all the other things you talked about with it?
Sure. I mean, leaving it vague enough for someone else's interpretation.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of metaphors in this movie, which I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I like going next level and finding the metaphor in any story and how it applies to me. I think it's easier to not get detailed and identify with it. Go big picture, and you'll always find something in it that you can identify with.
Well, wonderful. I thank you for coming and providing this eloquent introduction to the film. And
well, thank you, Mark, for letting Metallica take over for a little while. We much appreciated. We hope we can do it again and come up with some oldies and goodies and newies and whatever we can do.
Well, we would look forward to that. And it's been really a lot of fun.
Anything to help around here.
All right, thank you.